Great. Yeah, so I guess what makes our podcast unique is that we're focused on what is at the center of the Earth as opposed to um I guess any other topic. That's
Sure, that's fine.
because yeah, we think that's the main next step for kind of understanding what's going on in the world.
Yeah, yeah,
So
no problems at
I
all.
understand that you used to work with video games. What made you get into the flat Earth?
Well, I got into Flat Earth mostly as a last-ditch effort to clean the closet of conspiracies. Meaning, I have gone through between the first time I ever got into a conspiracy was when I saw JFK in the theater back in the 90s, and I know that kind of dates me. But I at that point, literally, because I grew up on a rural island up in the northwest near Canada, I really didn't think that people or organizations lied or had the capacity to lie on a grand scale.
Hmm.
And so after the JFK thing, I was like, holy smokes, people actually lie. I mean, not little lies, It's like, no, dude, I totally didn't dent your car or something like that.
Yeah.
Big lies.
Yeah.
And I really started going down that path hard. And then, I mean, I had gone through just about every conspiracy you could ever think of, and then I started looking for them, especially once the 9/11 thing came out, and then started looking at smaller ones like Boston bombing, Sandy Hook, and all this other fun stuff, and then even started digging into old historical stuff because we all know the saying history is written by the winners. But what most people don't know is a Napoleon saying, which was, I think, much more clever, which was history is just lies that are agreed upon. And because, basically the winners have to sit down at a table, it's like, all right, how are we going to spin this exactly? Yeah, we won the battle, but we probably want to paint ourselves in the best light. And for those people who think, I'm kidding when I say that, look what they're trying to do in the education system. They're slowly and quietly trying to remove certain things from the American education system, like, for example, the whole issue of slavery and Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They're just trying to quietly pull those from the history books because that paints the United States in a bad light. Anyway, I gone into just about every conspiracy you could ever think of, and then just by happenstance, because anybody that's anybody in the conspiracy world, they've all heard of Flat Earth. We've all heard of it. It's the dumbest, most ridiculous book on the shelf. No one ever looks at it. All everybody, technically, metaphorically, everybody owns a copy, but no one looks at it because it's dumb.
Yeah.
It's stupid. And I happened to glance at it, and it turned into a Pandora's box. Meaning, I looked at a couple YouTube videos that were kind of hinting at this, kind of whispering about this thing that I didn't think was possible, and that is, look, the flights in the southern hemisphere don't really make sense unless the Earth is flat. And then Matt Boylan, it's like he's talking about like GPS doesn't work in Antarctica because the Earth is flat, and these little things. And then I had heard also about the Michelson-Morley experiment, which I thought was very, very interesting in hindsight, which I didn't know about when I was younger. That where he was trying to prove that there was this ether, in the universe, that kind of like what I think they now describe as dark matter, that moves and flows, and he was trying to determine the speed of it, and he during his experiment said he failed, but it was an interesting what he said though, how he framed it. He said, well, either I completely failed with my experiment, or the Earth isn't moving. And people have gone, well, since we all know the Earth's moving, you must have failed. And it's like, oh, okay, he failed. So that's what So I started going down that path, and I would like everybody. Nobody embraces this thing right away. Nobody. And I mean, like maybe a tenth of a percent of somebody. Every once in a while you get a crazy person out there. But I'll tell people, I'll say, if you don't laugh at this theory right off the bat, there's probably something psychologically wrong with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, like I said when we first spoke,
Mhm.
it took me, because I'm spiritual. That's kind of the whole reason why we're truth seekers. Me and Kristen are really into the Bible, mostly the Old Testament. And
Mhm.
we've spent a lot of time trying to understand and dissect parts of the New Testament because it has really strange quotes that
Yeah.
are in the Gospels that, like Jesus, he changes the names of two of his followers to sons of thunder. And it's you mentioned that I've got a few friends whose parents are pastors, and you mentioned that to them. They're like, "That's not in the Bible. Prove that to me." And then I go on to the online and I show them, and they're like, "Oh my God, I don't know what that means."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just
It's an interesting thought when you first start looking into it. Again, it's mostly disbelief because we're conditioned at such a young age. Remember, this is the only thing we debunked to children. And by that I mean, there's a globe put in front of you, literally from the time you're conscious to when you get out of school and even past that. And I just didn't. I just wasn't buying it, and so I hammered on this thing for months, really from the summer of 2014 all the way up to the beginning of 2015. And then finally, I had this weird awakening moment, February 10th, middle of the night, like 3:30 in the morning, where the narrative was just in my head. I woke up and it was there. The whole thing was in my head. It's like I got to sit down and I got to get this thing out of my head.
what I'm sorry, Mark. What did it feel like? Did you have any other types of phenomenon going on at that time at night?
No,
Oh,
no, it was really straightforward. I just remember it was one of those restless nights
okay,
where there was this echo of all the theories, everything around this theory was going through my head, and
okay.
then all of a sudden in my own voice, it was like I was hearing an echo of myself doing the narrative, because not only was I going to type this thing out and make a video, I was going to narrate it myself. And so
Do you feel like that was an implant from whatever being, or do you feel like it was some internal thing you were grappling with after living
no,
all?
no, no, something was put into my head. Now, by who? There's several. Some people would say it's divine. Other people say no, you were government implanted, and they wanted this all along. It's like I didn't really
Well,
care.
you know,
Go ahead.
yeah, when you look into it,
Mhm.
because there's also aspects of, what people write about with the supposed alien agenda and stuff like that, but
Yeah,
it seems to all go back to a spiritual core
yeah,
and cause.
yeah.
So
I
even if you say it's some government thing, it's most likely some spiritual being.
I agree. I tend to lean that way because there was a reason for this. But yeah, I woke up and had the thing. It was weird because
Kind of delve into understanding causes and effects and reasoning and stuff like that. So would you say you're more from the kind of trusting of the
trust.
guiding hand of man, or more critical of the guiding hand of the man?
Well, because that's a double-edged sword. I know I can see what's possible. From
Mhm.
the scientific standpoint, I can see why science does its things because they don't seem to have the ethical quandaries that we all have. But as far as the motivations, what humanity and our civilization has, oh, I'm extremely skeptical and critical of it because I see us, people make horrible decisions all the time, which is also why I think this thing is coming out because we've reached, and I know we've said that for years and years, but we have reached this weird precipice where I if we don't turn back soon, we're just gonna smolder down and or hit some critical mass where we turn into a fiery ball of molten metal.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I'm just gonna drag and drop a photo that I was showing Kristen
Hmm.
real quick. I don't know if it's gonna let me do it from Google. No, I'll save it first.
Well, why he's doing that? For thousands of years, people thought the Earth was flat. And what do you think caused them to, about 500 years ago, to start pushing the globe?
I think it was part of the divine process. And some people say, well, it was Copernicus and all this. It's like, yeah, but Copernicus didn't even publish it till after he died. And he made sure he was dead before, he made that was part of his
Really?
will. Oh yeah, yeah. He didn't do it when he was alive for whatever reason. But I think it was. Hang on, I'm looking at it right now.
It's not showing the far right part of it, but I'm sure you've. Okay, if you click on it,
Oh,
maybe
I
it'll
know,
look.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah. So Copernicus didn't want it revealed until he passed away.
Yeah, yeah. And so
Where can we? Could you send us a link to verify that, or is
oh
that
yeah.
just kind of?
Well, no, you can find it. It's anywhere. He's credited with it. His works, he started quite a few years before he died, but the
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 globe
actual
model of the Earth?
yeah, yeah. But here's the thing. When when you're looking at this, I believe that, and I touched on this in the clues, that uh, this was part of the divine plan, meaning because people say, well, why would you turn the Earth into a sphere? Why wouldn't you just leave it flat like we always knew for thousands of years? It's like, well, because when you do, you're buying time, and you're stopping people from looking for the edge or the fence, as like I like to call it, because human beings are notoriously resistant to any sort of confinement,
Yes.
regardless of how comfortable it is. I mean, that's why prisons are such a negative reinforcement for us. So if which is why I use the wildlife preserve analogy. Is like, look, animals, you 1,000-acre wildlife preserve, animals don't care. In fact, they're perfectly
Yep.
happy in it because they don't know it's a preserve. But human beings, it could be the most beautiful preserve in the world, and all human beings would care about is the fence. Who built it? How can we get through it? Why are we here? And these questions would just keep snowballing.
So then why wouldn't the creators just make it so expansive that we would never find?
Yeah, we were talking about that, like
Yeah.
from a game designer perspective, and
Yeah.
because I liked how your first videos were kind of more from the designer technological aspect of the creator.
Yeah.
It seemed more gritty and more real. And so from a game designer perspective, why wouldn't they make it so infinite that we
Well,
never reach it?
I
To me,
mean,
the only reason would be they want us to reach a certain limited amount of population and in a certain amount of time.
well, I mean that's one way to look at it, or it could be more simple than that, and that is, what's your definition of infinite? Because it took us almost 4,900 years for our civilization to actually even start exploring the edge. That's a long time.
Yeah.
Think of all the slow. I mean, for we see it as, why not make it even bigger? It's like, well, why not make it smaller? I mean, it's a pretty good size for what you're looking to do, and that is because you can slow things down with different processes. Like, for example, as you're heading out towards the edge, keep reducing the temperature until you get icebergs, and if that doesn't turn them away, well, then you have a 200-foot high wall of ice when you get out there. And if you can get on top of that, well, you've got no plant life, no animal life, no indigenous population, so you have no resources. So whatever food you're taking with you, that slows you down. And then little things like turning the oceans, making the oceans a 3% salt solution. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's just enough to keep human beings from drinking it.
Right.
And which means your ship exploration is reduced by, oh wow, 90%. It's amazing the amount of what you could do with an area that we've got now. We'll say it's like 25,000 miles wide, roughly. It's amazing how long it took us to explore all of it. I mean, yeah, we got the basic land masses down, but remember, like the United States, that whole continent section, the North America, wasn't even. We had states that weren't even founded until the
Yeah.
turn of the century. So
Yep.
Do you think we were meant at this particular time to find
I do.
to find?
I think we were meant to find it even earlier than
Okay.
this, and that from a natural process, and this is where it gets interesting. Let's say you are, the divine looking at this, and is that a vacuum cleaner?
Oh, sorry, that's the laptop fan.
Okay. Wow, it's loud. That's okay. Uh, let's say you're the divine, and you want the people to find out. Let's say by the general population to find out by the late 70s, maybe the early 80s. It all comes down to who finds it first. And in this case, since science was looking for it, and the ancient societies had kind of, or the ancient maps kind of indicated what it looked like. Once science found it, well, then they've got a decision they've got to make, and unfortunately, it's going to kick into the what I like to call the Raiders of the Lost Ark syndrome, which is if it goes against science, they're simply just not going to tell you because it upsets the whole scientific institution. So if what I mean with Raiders of the Lost Ark is, everyone knows that movie from 1981. Everyone's looking for the Ark. It's the Ark of the Covenant. And at the very end of the movie, the Americans get it. And then what do they do with it? They put it in a crate and they put it in a warehouse, and no one ever gets to see it ever. And the reason is because that object raises too many questions, especially from a science standpoint. Science can't explain the Ark of the Covenant or the Holy Grail or the Spear of Destiny or anything from any other religion. Magical artifacts, if they exist, and I do believe they do, aren't allowed to be introduced into a scientific institution-based society. And this world, if it is enclosed, that would be the biggest one of all, because you're talking about the handprints of God, and they just aren't going to show you. That's why I kind of laid it out in one of the clues. I said, look, here's just a brief overview of the chaos that would be created if this happened. And men of power, there's an old saying, and that is, men are very, very hesitant to relinquish power. And you're asking science to go against itself, and they're just not going to do it. They're especially if it was any other group, it'd be one thing. But science will never give up power to religion willingly. You know what I mean? Because there's a big division there.
So the people with the power of science as our modern um, religion, I would call it, because when I was in college, I would ask my professor certain questions, and he would tell me not to ask things about that topic.
Yeah.
And so I immediately was like, okay, this is dogmatic. This is not science, which is the pursuit of anything.
Yeah.
This is staying close to certain doctrines and, I guess, rules, just like any other religion. But so, if science is in control now, who do you believe the rulers are that are choosing for it to be science focused right now?
Usually it's the money. And by the way, you might want to, since the fan's running, you might want to talk a little closer to the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
No worries at all. I could hear you. So there's a generic term. There's all sorts of people. You can pick whatever group you want. The Illuminati, the Masons, the Bilderbergs, the Rothschilds. It goes on. Whatever bloodline. It doesn't really matter. It all still boils down to the same principle. I usually call them the authority, which is the mixture of the super rich, government, high-ranking governments, and the royals of whatever royal family you want to pick. And they were the ones, I believe, they've known for a long, long time. They had access to the old maps, meaning there's been civilizations. It's not a big secret here, there's been civilizations before ours that have been around and that have been wiped out or destroyed themselves or whatever reason. And I think they left behind remnants. And these maps, I think, have been passed down in some cases from one civilization to the next. But even if you had a civilization, even if you had one of the old maps, until you have the technology to exploit it, what do you really have? Meaning, for example, one of the things I said was, let's say you're the king of France in, 1400, and you have a map that shows that the Earth is not a sphere, but kind of like a big dinner plate, with encased with this solid dome-like structure. What good is it going to do you? You've got horses and wooden ships. You can't use this even for your own benefit if you wanted to. All you have to do is all you can do is really sit on it for a while and hope that science advances technology to a point where maybe you can do something with it. And that's what I think happened. I think eventually, until the advent of the internal combustion engine, which was at the turn of the 1900 or so, there was nothing you could do. And then once you had that, then you had then aircraft started working out, and ships and mechanical devices that ran on petroleum, and then you could do something with it. And that's when they really started looking. By the way, don't believe in coincidences. Admiral Byrd, who did his first North Pole trip in 1926, then turned south in 1928. Remember, we didn't have very good planes in 1928, but they didn't care. It's like just.
Why do you think he only went over the North Pole that one time and then went south?
Because I think he was ordered. I think
that's what I think too.
He
was reading his diary.
Yeah, he was their guy. And in fact, I was just pure accident that I stumbled upon this, because I was a big Hollow Earth guy for a number of years. And when I started looking at the Admiral Byrd thing, and then I noticed that all his career took a sudden turn, and he went down to the South Pole, down to Antarctica, and spent literally the better part of 30 years looking for something. And it's like, and you're taking not just anybody, he's the world what at the time was one of the world's greatest explorers, the youngest admiral in the history of the United States Navy. Made admiral at 41, and he's just flying, and he flies his own planes. So he is flying around Antarctica with refueling stations he's in the air basically for 30 years looking for something. And then again, be
What
careful.
was he looking for? Did they
Yeah.
think there was a threat there?
Why all the military buildup and the weapons and stuff at the South Pole?
Well, part of it I think has to do with Operation High Jump, which was again great names that they gave these things, which was the remnants that some of us, if you're a good conspiracy person, you're going to remember the stories of what happened the Nazi to the Nazi war machine at the end of the war, and that they had fallback plan after fallback plan. And one of their fallback plans was to, start up a base in Antarctica because nobody owned it. Nobody was down there. So you take down your advanced weapons, and Nazi Germany had an amazing cache of advanced weapons. I mean, they had jet planes when nobody had them. They had guided rockets when nobody had them, and buzz bombs, and every aspect of their military was so far ahead of anything that the rest of the world had. So the story goes that they went down to Antarctica to hold up, to build back the empire and run from down there. And it was interesting because Admiral Byrd was at the surrender of the Japanese and officially of World War II in 1945. He was at the surrender signing, if I'm not mistaken, along with MacArthur. And then they ordered him almost immediately to get a fleet together, a full-blown carrier group, and go down in 1946 down to Antarctica for something called Operation High Jump. And that's when the speculation just runs wild because we've all heard some wonderful stuff down. I mean, they're great stories. Don't get me wrong. I love them, but they're all over the map, where they say they got down to Antarctica and they were starting to root out the Nazis, but then the Nazis asked asylum from an advanced civilization that was already down there, and the civilization said, well, if you grant asylum means you can't go back, but we'll fend off the Americans for you, all that fun stuff.
To me, Mark, I don't know if that makes sense though, because I kind of see it as more kind of status quo misdirection, because what has been the behavior and the practice of the governments for the past hundreds of years with distracting us to space that doesn't exist or to other planets that don't exist,
Oh, sure.
and pulling us away from the truth that the Earth is flat. So for my, you judge what to expect by previous actions. So when I see all the focus on the outside of the flat plate or whatever its actual shape is, if it's concave or whatever,
Hmm.
I see that as kind of a misdirection away from what's valuable and essential at the center of the Earth. And why would Google Maps, because you watch some of those videos and the photo I just dropped in the chat box, that's an ancient map from I think the 1600s, depicting the center of the Earth.
Oh, yeah.
And that's from that Lazeria map collection video,
Hmm.
and they would describe like ice rings surrounding the outside of it.
Yeah.
But when you got closer, there's a landmass and an opening that's illuminated and it's really warm, and there's trees and plants and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like there's life there. So
Oh,
there's
I
yeah.
have little doubt, by the way, that there absolutely is something underneath us, and that there's other civilizations that probably live underneath us. One of my favorite stories, and you guys probably know it very well, from years ago, was the Smokey God Story, right?
Yeah, I
And
haven't heard of that, but
oh, come on, you guys don't know the Smokey God Story?
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Oh, well, you probably know. Maybe you know it by a different name, where there was like a Norwegian father and son team that took a boat and accidentally found a way into the
Oh, were they there for a few years and then they came back, maybe?
I believe so, yeah. And they met literally what was called the king of the world.
Yes,
Yeah,
with what is that place called? Starts with an A.
I can't remember, but it was
Artha, yeah.
a race of giants and tropical life and giant animals and the whole nine yards. It seems sort of like a prehistoric way in some aspects, but in other aspects they had technology and wisdom that was way beyond ours. I believe that story. I do.
Yeah. So like Google Maps blocks out the North Pole now, or whatever's there. They say it's just one big landmass of snow that's no man's land, and these ancient maps
Show different.
from the 15 and 1600s depict it as something completely different.
Yeah.
So, what's your opinion on, since, the whole goal of our show is to find out what's truly there and maybe, see photos or experience something that is there.
hmm
What's your opinion on them changing that from 400 years ago? Like, why would they do that now?
It because well, I'll take it one step further, and that is I think that once Admiral Byrd, I also do believe the story, whether it's in his diaries or it's something else. Actually, you want to the for those people that don't know what we're talking about here, Admiral Byrd supposedly flew in a rickety plane in 1926 up and around the North Pole, but he also talked about in some detail that he actually got to fly inside it, that there was an opening and he took his plane inside, and he sort of saw the same thing that these other guys did, these Norwegian guys, or whatever country they were from. And but then, at that point, they had to deal with what the shape of the world was. So whoever was in charge of whatever he was doing sent him away. There's another interesting story. I don't know if you guys caught this one though. Look up, and I found this just kind of researching Admiral Byrd, was that Charles Lindbergh, also, very, very, very famous pilot around that same time,
Oh, yeah, yep.
Sure.
did the same sort of thing, and that he went up there, because there's so much competition when it came to explorers back in the day. It's like who's who, and
Sure.
the spirit of competition between people is never ending. So that he flew up there with his wife, and they were flying around and did the same sort of thing and took pictures. And when he came back, he goes, he had a lot of friends in the government at the time. It was loosely based. It wasn't as compartmentalized as it is now. And he went and he said, "Oh yeah, by the way, we ought to tell people about this." And this is, because all explorers want to, be that guy. It's like, look, I'm staying. Here's the flag, and let's tell
Yep.
everybody. Let's have National Geographic do a thing on it.
Right.
And they said, "Yeah, you're not showing those pictures to anybody. Give us the pictures. You're not talking about this to anyone." And he wasn't going along with it. And then subsequently, the whole Lindbergh baby thing happened, where his child was taken, and
So, do you think, as the reports go, that the governments of the world actually do block people from going to the North Pole or the center of the Earth?
the center of the Earth, yeah. I mean, any openings they're going to protect, no question.
Do you think they had previous knowledge that there was something there before these explorers went?
You mean 1600?
Yes, but they until you have the ability to see it for yourself, like anything, until you have the ability to see it for yourself, what do you really know?
Right.
It's
Right.
just myth and legend, which is why I thought when Bird came on television in 1954 on that CBS show, and started talking about Antarctic and saying, "Oh yeah, we're just going to carve this thing up, and everyone's going to make money, and we're going to be down there forever, and it's just a question of who's going to, we might even get in fights over it." And because I think at that point they almost given up. That was the Murphy's Law, and that's what kind of one of those turning points for me, because that's exactly what they would have done. They would have said, "Okay, let's just make money, and it'll be done with it." And then the next thing you know, the very next mission was when they found whatever they were looking for, whether it be a soft barrier or a hard barrier or whatever it was.
Yeah, our atmosphere, it has to be a hard container that keeps everything in, because the whole thing with space. Okay, so
Yeah,
if you can traverse our atmosphere
yeah,
to an open vacuum,
yeah.
there is absolutely no logic contained within that statement. There's none
No,
at all. It needs to be contained with a hard shell.
yeah, you're
So,
absolutely right. And I didn't talk about a lot of the science stuff and the clues, because I really wanted to turn it into an introductory, not necessarily
yeah,
say that it was flat Earth for dummies, but it really kind of turned out into that. But you're right. The vacuum of space. We all know that a vacuum is a very, very powerful force, and it'll suck any atmosphere into it. So the question is,
yep.
what's holding our atmosphere on there? And the answer for just about every question that science has is gravity, which is fine. However, gravity can only do so much, and you're saying that gravity is so powerful that it can hold the atmosphere. It can beat the atmosphere. Keep the atmosphere from being ripped off by a
There's
vacuum.
arguments that it's the theory of gravity, and
Yeah.
once you read more about, like the flat Earth stuff, everybody's like, gravity doesn't even exist because it's a theory created by a person that was with the system,
Yeah.
Newton, a couple hundred years ago. So who knows if that's even real?
Yeah.
Maybe. I think a lot of people describe what bring stuff back down as different densities. And I think there's electrostatic forces that hold a lot of things together also.
Sure.
So they say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the statement, I love how they keep trying to tie, flat earthers think that gravity doesn't exist. It's like, nah, you're wording it wrong. It's not that gravity doesn't exist. It's that gravity as a concept is not what science defines it. It's not this. You got to let go of the whole
Magnetism or something.
Yeah, I mean, I consider gravity an electromagnetic,
Okay, yeah.
but on a molecular level. Because again, that's what we do in simulations. Because we have to, whenever we're building something, you have to build in gravity. You got to build in the physics. Well, how do you build in gravity into a simulation? Well, you just take an object and you create a gravity force, and you say this force will attract this object. Doesn't matter what that object's made out of. And I'm not going to go down the matrix road too far, but from a simulation standpoint, that's what we do. We say, okay, no matter what object it is, no matter what's made out of, we will attract it like it's magnetic, and that's how it works. So,
Mark, since it's a contained dome that physical beings cannot go inside of or outside of unless they have like a containment doorway that, like how they used to theorize space would be, or some other type of pressure changing room.
yeah.
So unless they have that and some specific doorways along the dome for the people that are in the know to go in and out of,
Yeah.
do you believe that there are consciousnesses that do go in and out of the dome? Because on that video, I think it's by Crow 777, and I think you interviewed him.
I
When
did.
he's videotaping the moon, he says on the equinoxes, he sees what look like UFOs. So I'm wondering, do you believe everything is only from underground? Do you believe it's multidimensional? Or do you believe there's something outside of the dome that they're able to traverse by dematerializing?
All of the above, really. The only thing I really don't believe in is satellites. I don't believe in anything that you see the government. Well, that's the George Carlin saying, and that is, don't believe anything, absolutely anything the government tells you.
Oh yeah.
But when it comes to what's up there, yeah, because I have gone out with, you guys probably have heard me say it. I've gone out with night vision binoculars for years, and I have seen a lot of stuff flying around up there. Now,
Just up into the night sky, or
oh yeah, yeah. In fact, it was something people say, oh, you can't learn, you don't believe everything you hear on the internet. It's like, no, do your own research and test
Okay.
this stuff out yourself. So this
Okay.
this British guy, at the very end of this interview, and he was talking about all sorts of crap, and he goes, you want to see some interesting stuff? He goes, get some night vision and lay down and look
Wow.
up. And I going, really? I go, I'll take that bet. So I went on Amazon and shopped around, and all the really good night vision stuff is
thousands?
well, no, it's not as much as you might think. If you get Gen 2 and Gen 3, yeah, it's pretty expensive, but you don't need it for this stuff. You can get it with Gen 1, and that costs, I don't know, $400 maybe.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, it's not bad. And you want binoculars, and the you can get like a 5X. 5X is about as low as you want to go for about that. And so I got some Night Owl. I went through several different pairs, and I couldn't ever find one that did a decent job of recording, which was weird. I mean, they not that I couldn't record on it. It didn't even have recording capability, which was interesting, but that's a whole other thing. So I start looking around, and literally my first night, when you put them on, it's kind of like that movie They Live. When you start looking up there, it's like, wow.
Excellent movie.
Yeah, I go, man, there's a lot of satellites. I remember calling some family members and going, wow, you have no idea how many satellites there are up there. And that was my first night. And then the second night, I go out there, and I'm going, oh, look, more satellites, right? But these are satellites you can't see with the naked eye. It's not like, the bright ones, which you see. And then all of a sudden, I'm watching some satellites. And one of them in particular, it slows down, it stops, it looks like it's lost, and then makes a left-hand turn, and then it picks up speed and goes ballistic. I'm going, I go, that's not exactly what a satellite. But the thing is, it looked like everything else that was up there. So now I'm going, okay, what exactly am I looking at? What are all these? So I started watching two groups of ships show up, just like squaring off over the city, and just start beating on each other for about an hour. to where there's sketch artists coming out and they're drawing. There's no
Like
photographs.
fighting, like
They're,
dog fights or
yeah,
something?
yeah, full-blown carriers with fighters and the whole nine yards. And people didn't know, they could only explain it. It's like, okay, these large rectangular tubular objects would come out, and then these smaller things would come out of the tubular objects, and they'd start beating each other, and some of these things would fall to the ground.
Two warring parties?
Yeah, two warring parties. But
So multiple, okay.
yeah,
Well,
multiple groups, but that's not where the interesting part is. And this is the part that even Ancient Aliens talked about this once, but they left out the most important part, and that was the end. And that was after an hour, all of a sudden, a third faction shows up. And that was just one ship, one giant black angular craft, and it parks itself right between them and doesn't even do anything. And these two groups just scatter. And and yeah, it's like, okay, and then the angular craft waits for a little while, and then it leaves. And then, so because that paints that story in a whole different light, which is, okay, now we're talking, not only are we talking about three factions, but we're talking about a hierarchy. And
Yeah.
not only are we talking about hierarchy, we're talking about rules, which is obviously those two factions weren't supposed to be there fighting over a populated area. And call it prime directive, call it what you want, but the black group, they were there as to enforce it. It took them a full hour to get there. I don't know why. And then, so what's their position in the whole thing, and what are the rules that these other two had to, sort of agree to, and why weren't they? How much enforcement did this group have? I mean, it raises so many questions.
well, after knowing that for a while and having it sift through your subconscious and speaking with other people, I'm sure, to try to get to the root of it.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that with the different hierarchies, as
Uh,
you said?
I believe that it came back to a question that was posed to me a long time ago, or to say when I started doing this, which was, who is are there a lot of factions? Yes, there are a lot of factions, but who is the first faction? Are we going back to the King of the World story, where there's a faction that's the highest authority faction, and they're the ones that make the rules. And I believe that the group in the black angular craft, they were there for enforcement. Now, do they work for another group that works for another group? Yeah, very, very
No,
possible.
that's really interesting, Mark, because it brings us to our spiritual realizations, where me and Kristen were. I don't know if you've heard about him. He was, I think, an Australian Italian named Boni- Bonacci.
Oh yeah, Santos.
Bonacci.
Yeah,
And he had his videos before he kind of got arrested, and seems like his brain was wiped or something happened, so he's different now. I don't know if he was vegan for too long or what, but he seems completely different now.
okay.
No offense to him, because he had very insightful information, but he made a really valid and really interesting point where he reminded people that the sun every couple thousand years goes through a different stage.
Yeah.
And it said that before this age, which is the age of Pisces, and everything kind of is focused on fish iconography, like the Pope's hat, and on people's bumper stickers for Jesus, it's the
Oh yeah, yeah.
of a fish. And the
Yep.
one previous to that was Taurus,
Yep.
the age of Taurus. And somehow they relate that to Moses and the
Yeah.
burning bush and stuff. I don't know how you can find an icon for Taurus with Moses
Yeah, yeah.
stuff, but so me and Kristen realized that for each age it's a different person we're praying to. And then we thought more about it, and we realized, what? Every religion is praying on a different day with different attributes. And Kristen has the belief that there are different gods that people
Yes.
pray to. And my roommate, he also made me kind of realize that, because I was talking about, I think Muslim people. I said, we were talking about something in the news, and he was like, I don't think they're praying to the same God as me. And that's the first time at age, I'm 30 now, 31, but it was when I was 30,
Yeah.
that I was like, whoa, praying to a different God, what does that even mean? And when I thought about it, I was like, whoa. Judaism prays on Saturday. Their main color is supposedly black. The day for Saturday, the planet or the consciousness is Saturn. Muslims, they pray on Friday, and their main color is green, and their flag is I think it's the morning star, some star, and that's supposed to be connected with the planet Venus, which I don't believe in planets anymore. Maybe there's a dot in the dome that, rings to that being, or it's a kind of flag for that entity.
Yeah.
The Christians, they pray on Sunday. So each group, we think that's where war comes from because people choose one of these supernatural superpowers to connect with and get power for themselves because of whatever motivations. If you watch or you listen to Freud or read Freud, he says everything starts with kind of a sexual urge and stuff like that. So people want to empower themselves.
Yeah.
They find a certain god that matches with their culture and their upbringing, and they get power from that. And then that's what leads to, competition, comparisons. I don't want to feel threatened by your beliefs because that invalidates my God, my beliefs. So that's where wars come from. But
Yeah.
it made us think people are praying to a different God because on each, they say it's the monotheistic super religion, but really it's not monotheistic. It's praying to a person you call God, but with completely different days and with completely different attributes. And also with Christianity, what is their main incense? It's frankincense, which is a solar purifying incense and smell. So, yeah, so that's strange that there were these different warring UFOs or whatever they were.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, maybe people are kind of connecting to them, and when they pray in the unseen realm, they're getting assistance, through those groups.
Yeah, yeah, maybe it was very very interesting though when I was looking at it because then I started delving into more of why would there be a prime directive, and that is we know this very well from any science fiction thing, and that is when cultures are very vulnerable at just about any stage to technologies and things that are farther along than they are. So for whatever reason, who's ever on the surface of this place, they are allowed to progress naturally. And I kind of joked that maybe it'd be sort of like a jailbreak scenario. So that if you believe that the first ones were possibly the fallen ones, the rebellion from
Sons of God?
well, the led by Lucifer group,
Oh, the New Testament view
yeah,
of good versus evil?
yeah,
Okay.
if you believe in that, then they could be the first group, and then it's a jailbreak scenario where it's like, okay, you let every civilization develop naturally, and maybe they can find a way out that you didn't. You know what I mean? There's a novelty there where nobody else has. So like for our civilization to be like, okay, if you had to get out of this thing, how would you get out? All right, atomic weapons. Brute force, that's not working. What else you got? You got HARP, frequency manipulation. That's pretty good too. What's this next thing you're working on? Ooh, CERN, gateways. God particle. You might be able to do something there. So, but again, you have to let it progress naturally, because if you don't, you risk the chance that whatever problem-solving idea, like they say, use a fresh set of eyes to solve a problem. Maybe it's as simple as that. But whatever it is, there's absolutely no direct interference up until now. Meaning, the argument is people on the skeptic side, what they'll do is they'll say, well, it's obvious there's no aliens because why haven't they ever landed on the White House lawn? And it's like, well, full well why that isn't the case. It's like, well, because let's not even the White House lawn. Let's say they landed in the middle of some small town in Indiana, right? The ship lands, gets out, takes pictures, shakes hands, signs a few autographs, and leaves. That town is then influenced forever. And anyone that was there, a new religion basically starts up almost overnight, depending on what year this happens. So you can't, people say, well, why hasn't it ever happened here? It's because you can't. Now, that's not to say that we don't have isolated incidents all over the place where, a boat is taken out of here and some people out of a woods here and some people in the desert here. Those are all isolated cases. But when it comes to population centers, things that can be verified, especially look up, if everyone wants to look up some interesting stuff, look up the document called the M.K. Jessup Report, annotated edition, where this guy, a scientist, was chronicling all the different stuff that was happening really before the advent of photography. These other civilizations aren't dumb by any capacity. So once they realized when photograph equipment got better and better, it's like all of a sudden they started going higher and higher to where now, they just don't let themselves even get photographed at all if they can help it.
Yeah, that's interesting. But so if there are other entities and they're not interfering with humanity,
Hmm.
then why do you think all these abduction reports, and then you go on the internet and you type in alien abduction program or alien breeding program,
Yeah.
and hear all these, like, maybe a decade ago they didn't have the full story panned out, but now when you do a Google search,
Hmm.
they kind of have the end game, sort of, they've decided what they believe that is, and it seems kind of strange that there's all these reports of, breeding programs and, well, women's eggs being kind of taken, or and they're being used as,
Oh, sure, sure.
s-
And I,
so
I
is
d-
that a replacement group? And then the peak in the human population is just going to lead to a massive downfall, and we're going to be replaced with a new set of,
well, hard to say. I try to go with the glass half full. I try not to see too sinister into it if I can, uh, only because I do believe in happy endings. But what you're saying there, it would be pretty
okay.
typical for what we do in our experiments now. You don't take out the whole. I don't want to diminish us to mice, but you don't take out a huge groups of mice. You just pick one every once in a while and do this and do
Yep.
that. You don't hear of entire families necessarily getting grabbed all at the same time.
So humans would be doing this?
To no, no, no. I mean humans to mice.
Oh,
I'm making the
sorry.
comparison, but how they're grabbing us is very very isolated by comparison. You don't see a busload of children all of a sudden disappear off a road, or a military transport getting taken out of the ocean. It's usually small pockets, a couple campers here, and more than that, when they're taken, they're disoriented enough and they're separated enough. It's like you put six people. What you never hear of is like six people getting taken out, and then they're completely coherent and they're put in a room, like we see in some science fiction movies, and they're
Yeah.
allowed to exchange notes, and it's like, man, if we ever get out of here, we're going to tell our story.
Yeah.
It's usually something very very isolated, like that movie.
Bizarre too. Just stuff doesn't make sense. Like
Yeah.
different sized body parts, like a giant leg versus, everything seems so dreamlike and surreal that,
Yeah,
um, is even on the physical plane.
the perfect example would be the movie from the early '90s, Fire in the Sky.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
the
that was very, very. I totally bought into that movie. I still do, because it fit. It's like, he was taken. The other guys can't. If the other guys would have been in there, don't know what would have happened to them. But they were counting on the other guys scattering. His memory was fragmented at best, and the ship was very. It wasn't your pristine Star Trek New Generation USS Utopia type stuff. It was dirty, it was grungy, it was not well maintained.
But yeah, just the agenda that people are, the consensus on what the agenda ultimately, aims to achieve
Yeah,
is, kind of, I don't know, it just matches up with the different eras. Like we're entering into the age of Aquarius,
yeah.
and the population is peaking, and all these stories about, humans making, hybrids or whatever that truly is. Maybe it's just propaganda. Maybe who knows what it
Or
is.
or maybe there's multiple agendas. Maybe there are groups that are allowed to do some genetic manipulation, but at higher levels, whoever's, whatever, how far up you want to go in the hierarchy, maybe they're the ones that have the bigger picture. It's like, fine, this group wants, the reptilians want to do some experiments. Yeah, all right, all in favor say aye. Yeah, fine, they can do some experiments. You're limited to, I don't know how many it is, 20 experiments per continent per week. Something, I know it sounds real business-like and real clinical, but it could be as simple as that, where
Yeah.
the business is done. It's like, but even then, they're not allowed. They're, yeah, the experiments are allowed to be done, but the big picture, I mean, as far as what happens to the overall civilization, I
Yeah.
think that's still up in the air
It's,
at this point,
uh,
so to speak.
okay. Well, me about a year ago, I saw the movie Prometheus, and then I read this long critique of it,
Hmm.
and how it kind of has, sort of, this parable for, um, like human instinct, and how we were given a choice for, what to do with a messenger. That, to me, when I read the New Testament and the Gospels, that's my mentality.
Yeah.
If you have a problem with somebody, Jesus, who was sent from wherever, if he actually existed,
Hmm.
he tells people to approach the person peacefully, make your peace. And it seems like 90% of the population is not like that. They're holding on and clinging on to their egos or whatever,
Yeah.
and they never could follow what simple truths he tried to share, or whatever consciousness um, made that, those doctrines what they were trying to give to humanity to protect themselves, to make life better. And people fought that. And in that movie Prometheus, they kind of say that the creators, they called them engineers, they were displeased with that. It's just one theory for explaining the movie. But Ridley Scott also kind of supported this notion with the 2,000 years ago, they planned on destroying humanity. So it's like maybe with this breeding program, they are displeased. And in Greek mythology, they talk about the different ages, like the Iron Age, the Copper Age, the Bronze Age,
Yep.
how some of them, there was only one that really flourished and there was peace and virtue. All the other ones, they're acting like most people today. Where if you have a different shirt or sports team or car, people want to completely nullify you or destroy you as a threat instead of trying to understand the existence and the connection to your fellow human.
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe, yeah, so maybe they're displeased and they do feel like it's our last chance no matter what. Because that population peak graph, the graph for humanity,
Hmm.
dude, when I saw that, like none of this other stuff gave me a daunting feeling, like I was at the precipice of either having a mental collapse or having a deeper realization. This stuff doesn't stress me out, but when I first saw that population graph where it peaked within 100 years to like billions of people, just completely skyrockets.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, what? And with my biology background, seeing the exponential growth graph for bacteria,
Hmm.
and right after that, it's exponential eradication and death. Inevitably, you have to do that. So me seeing that, I was like, whoa, this is a collective dream, and all of us have to, all our consciousnesses have to end eventually.
Yeah.
And I fully believe that still, but I've come to terms with it and I accept it. I believe that life is, as the Hindus and Buddhists, whoever, there's different beliefs for what life is. Some people say it's just a collective dream that we're all manifesting and constantly changing. Maybe that's why the rulers insert these new ideas into us for us all to subconsciously create our future. But I believe that it is basically just like an imagination of us with certain rules, but um, it it does seem like, yeah, it has to do the opposite of what that population peak
Yeah. Yeah.
did. So
I agree. I agree. One of my only, which you were mentioning earlier about how people act out there, it reminded me of that Reagan speech from his UN speech from the 80s, which is very true, which is we are the one that I think our civilization, I can't speak for others, of course, our civilization's biggest flaw is that if we do not have a common goal, if we do not have a common thing
yes, I completely agree.
that
Yep.
unifies us, we turn that because we've got so
Yep.
much
Yeah.
energy and so much compassion that we immediately turn it on each other.
An
Yeah.
extraterrestrial threat to
Yeah,
unite us all.
yeah.
But when we see the flat Earth, are we supposed to go against an extra dimensional, an underground threat? How does that work? It's the
Well,
same
it
type of
it
world.
depends how it's introduced because which is why I've kind of been telling people, like, look, this thing could still go either way, all the way up until the last minute, which is one of the default side effects of that we're inside a giant terrarium is that we're all in one community, and which means, all right, who's running, whose building is this, whose structure is this, and depending on how it's introduced, we are either introduced to someone who or something that says, oh yeah, by the way, I built it, which is, I say, oh, it's either the divine or somebody that subcontracted out to the divine, from the divine. So you can either say, be peaceful, love each other, do all these things, and the humanity be a better place, or it becomes this big rebellion. It's like, who are you to put us in a cage? And it's like, rise up, grab the torches and pitchforks and then all. Because there was that one thing. I know it sounds kind of silly, but there was a thing in Revelations which kind of bothered me as a kid, which was there was this one. Most people, if you follow the Christianity stuff, it's they'll remember it, and that is during the end times there will actually be the remaining population that went through the tribulation would actually try to wage war against God. I was going, how do you pull that off?
Right.
Exactly. It's like, because it's God, right?
The mutiny.
Yeah. How do you mutiny against God? And it's like, well, you can't win
Nope.
unless you think you can win. Unless unless that you all of a sudden realize there's structure and
And then he
that
floods you. He'll flood you. That's the
yeah,
myth of any Native American, culture, and a lot of different people. They've got the flood myth. I think. Sorry,
I know,
but
but
I
but
think you
but
just ended.
but think of this though, that because I go down different plot lines. Think of, for example, one or two of the older civilizations then show up, right, and say,
Oh,
hey, you know what?
we survived.
We
Oh
survived
my
the
God.
wrath,
Wow.
and you can too. Join us, and maybe
Oh,
we can get out of here. And it's what would the people do? It's like, no, we should just accept our fate and get drowned. Or at that point it's like, look, we'll give you a whole bunch of submarines. You're not going to drown. Come on, join the fight. There's
and then
so
the
many.
new creation, the new form of humanity, covers the top of the earth or something, or
Yeah. At that point, the whole thing starts again, which is, how many times I've said that we're not the first people to rent this apartment, but there are so many instances. I mean, a lot of it's been covered up very, very well. Like the sunken cities out of Japan, or the sunken cities in the Indian Ocean, or the vitrification glass in somewhere in India, and then how old really are the pyramids? I know this. I was standing right next to
or
them. And
yeah,
I can tell you right now, they were not built by any ancestors of Cairo.
Mark, that underground city near Turkey. I forgot the name of it, but it's
Oh
a
yeah.
video me and Kristen saw like a week ago.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's an underground city that somebody was renovating their house near Turkey. I don't know if you heard about it, but they broke through the ground and then they explored it, and it was a vast,
Massive.
holding thousands of humans underground from who knows when. They couldn't date it, but at least thousands of years ago.
Yep.
And they had these massive, heavy stone
Doors.
doorways that only opened and they rolled open from the inside, being secure to protect from some other force. And I don't think it would be from flooding because they had air holes. So it was some material group, or some physical group that was on the surface that maybe it wasn't even humans that were hiding down there. Maybe it
Maybe,
was
maybe, maybe
that wanted
not.
to survive.
I mean, we we can only compare to ourselves, although our science fiction stories know full well that you can, if you have the power of genetic manipulation, you can manipulate just about any species if you wanted to. I
You
mean,
believe humans can, or well, I mean, other groups maybe, but do you believe humans are capable of genetic manipulation? Because they had cloning, but I don't, there's these fringe stories in the news that Alex Jones is starting to talk about
yeah,
different species mixing and stuff, which is really just
the
grotesque sounding to me. But do you believe humans can
do we have the
reproduce?
ability,
Yeah.
the Dulce, New Mexico based stories? Um, when it comes to our military, almost nothing surprises me anymore because of the ability. People say, "Oh, you can't keep secrets." No, you can. You can absolutely keep
Oh, if you
secrets.
can keep the flat Earth secret
Yeah.
for
Well,
years and years.
I'll go with something simple, and that is, most people again don't know about some of this stuff, and that is, that movie, Bridge of Spies, that came out recently with Tom Hanks, that was about the whole U-2 spy plane debacle of the
Oh,
'60s,
I've seen that.
and that was, the United States didn't have a spy plane until one was shot down over Russia. I mean, it didn't even exist, right?
Oh,
Right.
okay.
And then the SR-71 came into existence. It was born, it served, and it was retired years ago. And our military, just to give kind of a dig, did kind of a decommission ceremony and said, "Oh, by the way, we're retiring our spy plane." It's like, what spy plane? It's like, oh, the SR-71. It's like, this SR-71 served its entire life, and nobody really knew about it.
Yeah.
And then, and what was great though was the line that the Air Force. I can't remember if he was a general at the end. The press conference, like, "Oh, so what are you replacing the SR-71 with?" He goes, "Oh, nothing." It's like, what? Of course you
Surfers.
will,
Retiring it.
but that's
Oh,
just it. The secrets are meant to be a secret, and so you don't know. So now there's supposedly like an Aurora plane that's out there, and that runs on. It's so fast, no one can even photograph it, because by the time you hear it, it is gone. Um,
yeah, so all the funding for the fake space program went to projects like that,
Well,
right?
yeah. I mean, not all of it, because you still do have to build a rocket program, but nothing's wasted. I mean, yeah, there's some stuff is wasted, like satellites and rocket boosters and crap like that. But all the technology, you use it, you get something out of it. But as far as genetic manipulation, yeah, that's something we would absolutely concentrate on. If you have any doubts on that, look up an old, 70s movie. It was based on a award-winning book called The Andromeda Strain.
Okay.
If you remember, they did a remake of it. Don't look up the remake. Look up the original 19. In fact, I could probably find it for you. 1970s movie, but basically it was really revolutionary because it was early 70s, and they were showing, of course, it was simulated a secret military base that was built underneath the desert. It was the most high-tech thing you ever saw, and it was basically a biological lab. Now, of course, in this movie, they were dealing with how to deal with a virus that came in from outside our world, and they were trying to isolate it. But you could see full well that they could use it for just about anything they wanted.
So if they are capable of doing molecular and genetic
manipulations, yeah,
then what if the spiritual aspect is the explanation and there is no true material beings that are interacting with us, then couldn't the
no. I do think there's
couldn't the rulers just create an abnormal looking humanoid species or being, and then use that as the example of an underworld or otherworldly type of...
You got to be careful if you're doing that, though. Sort of like, I know where you're going with this. It's sort of like, because I always kind of kidded that if you wanted to, you could introduce a fake alien race.
Yeah.
And design a spaceship, have it land, have somebody come out and say, we have designed, make them, 8 feet tall. They got to be taller. 8 feet tall and make them years. You don't have the time to do it in the frame allowed and still pull it off. Besides, you're going to try to pass it off as live.
Okay.
It can't do it. Cannot fake the Mars. Not a human Mars landing. The NASA, which is why they just keep kicking it down the road. It's kind of like the hydrogen fuel cell cars, which they said they were going to do years and years ago, and now they're not even talking about it anymore.
They had in Back to the Future, the date he goes to in the future is like something 2015.
Yeah,
October, November.
Yep.
Yeah.
They had the doc, I forgot what actor that is, and they had Marty McFly on one of those late night shows, and they were, we're back to the future, we finally arrived. And they're talking about like all the technology that we must have, and the host, I think it was Jimmy Kimmel or something like that. He said, no, basically we just have our smartphones. He's like, oh really? What are these? And he's like, oh, they get recipes and you can talk to your friends and stuff. He's like, what? No hover cars? No all this other stuff? And he's like, nope.
Yeah, where is the future? And this was also one of my things, which was we've been so stunted in different the technology that we have is so inconsistent. Meaning we've got outstanding camera technology, great computer technology, but mechanically we've been stunted. Where are the Jetson cars? Where are the hoverboards? Where are all these things that we've been talking about, I don't know, for 50, 60 years? We don't even have anything close. We still have freaking... the cars get better gas mileage, but that's it. Oh, fine.
Astrologically, the creative and imagination and like visual special effects stuff matches up with the new age that we're entering of the mind, which is Aquarius, the age of Aquarius and stuff. So
yeah,
a lot of that's it. It seems like they say VR is gonna get super advanced, virtual reality and all that stuff, and it's gonna be almost like a dreamlike 2,000 years.
Yeah, well, they can't. I believe that we will not be allowed to build a true virtual reality within ourselves and turn it into like a 13th Floor movie where it's a simulation within a simulation. Yeah. By the way, 13th Floor, a lot of people don't know. Actually, that movie was a remake of a 1970s movie, German film called World on a Wire. I mean, an exact remake of it. I was going, wow, the Germans in their movie industry actually made a 13th Floor in the 70s. How does that work? But I don't think we're going to be allowed to do a 13th Floor because then the whole thing breaks down. You're talking because then you don't know what's real and what's not, and you have people because that's all anyone would do.
You could be born into that.
Well, yeah. And then because also another reason why forget about even just virtual reality. Think about things like the holodeck from Star Trek Next Generation. You can't be that can't even be allowed because even though people would know what they were getting into, it's not like they would be confused.
Forget, maybe?
All people would, well, yeah, you could do a
They'd
memory.
want to forget if it was ideal.
If it was ideal, yes, but people would just spend their entire lives. That's all they care about. You'd build a house with a holodeck. That's all you'd care about.
Isn't that what video
Right.
games kind of are? I know a lot of people, my younger brother included, that it seems like they spend so much time in an interactive computer game, video game world that they're my friends from high, they would play EverQuest all the time. It's like, dude, you're putting all this creative effort and energy that you have to expend on anything into these video games to achieve different levels and to get all this different, gold or whatever you go mining for, and yet you could be directing that towards making your life better. I tried to do that with myself, sort of, but it seems like a lot of people are putting a lot of their life's
They are,
into
they
that.
are, and I am extremely, I'm about the most obvious example of that because I was old. I'm old enough that I evolved with the games as they got, went from simple to complex, and then once it reached the MMORPG stage, the massive multiplayer online games, that's when everything kind of took a weird
Yeah,
turn.
because it became a community where you could
Yeah.
have a life, an actual life virtually.
Yeah, yeah, you could, and people spent. In fact, you can look online. There's a wonderful, well, not wonderful, kind of a sad side effect, which was called Warcraft Widows, where relationships just crashed because people, guys especially, they went on and they'd spend 8, 10 hours a day and all their weekends, all their off hours, and there was no time for anything else. And we're talking about fairly simple technology by comparison to what could be done. That is, just a monitor in front of you and a keyboard. Imagine what you could do if you had an immersive effect where it was you were really in it. That would consume everybody. So
And
go ahead.
for people that consider life a dream anyways, to create another dream within that, or another kind of, you know, VR dream, people that compare life to the Matrix, it's like
Yeah.
duplicate upon duplicate upon duplicate.
Yeah, I try not to. Yeah, because then you get into the Russian stacking doll argument,
Yeah.
which I don't try to dig into too much because I can only really focus on one world at a time. If we are within a world within a world within a world, it's very very possible. But you got to focus on dealing with
I
this one.
personally don't think we are. I mean, I'm a skeptic just because I've seen the selfish side of humanity more than I've seen the generous, selfless side of humanity.
Yeah.
But I still have faith in the creator or the creators that life is pretty good because it could be worse. Where whoever's ruling us, they could make it sheer torture, but they don't. You wake up, you can choose what job you want to go to based upon your own decisions and actions. So if you choose to do good, usually you end up at a good job around good people with a good life if you choose to do bad. So yeah, I don't think it's a stacked reality that's
No, no, I
I
don't
think it's
either.
basically
And
with good intent.
and you are right. About how generally if you do good things, but it's not absolute, which is also indicative of a randomness generator, which
Okay.
is well, there was an episode on The Simpsons done years ago where Ned Flanders finally had like a really bad month where everything was just turning bad. And, where everything was like, it's like, didn't you have insurance on the house because the house burned down? It's like, no, Ned considered insurance a form of gambling.
How do you explain
And
how do you explain that?
well, that's
Or
just
good
it.
people that get abducted. Because, like, if you believe that I lean more towards the supernatural explanations for abductions.
Yeah.
But if you believe, or if good people that don't have a karmic bad history, or like the Bible says, you're cursed for 7 generations if you break a commandment,
Yeah.
then for good people that haven't done that, how do you explain them having these horrific experiences
I
or abducted?
one of two things. One, I think it can't be absolutes because I'm going to use a gaming reference just because I know it so well. You can't allow exploits, and anyone who games knows full well what I'm talking about. If you're old enough to when
Maximizing the potential, you mean?
not just maximizing the potential, but finding what the loopholes are.
Okay.
As programming became more and more advanced, during those birthing pains of whatever next generation of games came out, you'd find out it's like, oh, well, we can't allow this because this in combination with this produces somebody who can get away with anything, including murder.
Okay. So
So
that's why the random
yeah,
generator or whatever you
yeah,
called it.
the Ned Flanders analogy, which I like to give, is that if you didn't do that, what would happen is people would start saving up good things.
Man,
If
you
it's
are
like,
insightful. I don't know who you're talking to, Mark, but you are very insightful.
well,
That's
I think about a lot of this stuff. So like for example, if you did 10 nice things, you helped 10 ladies cross the street, right? 10 old ladies cross the street. All of a sudden, you'd all of a sudden find $1,000 on a park bench. That's all anyone would do is they would just do this all the time. There was a movie, or a television series called The Hidden Room, some years ago on the Sci-Fi Channel, and about how what it basically was an example why there are no magical artifacts in the world, and like certain things would do certain things. Like if there was a special magical comb that if you used it a certain way, it would give you good luck. And there's one thing that he goes, did you ever find the pen? Did you ever hear about the pencil? Yeah, because they were describing all these cool little things. He goes, well, what did the pencil do? He goes, you tap the pencil, a penny comes out. He goes, 1 penny? Yep, that's all it is. You tap pencil, penny comes out. He goes, you know what happened to the first guy that found the pencil? He goes, no. He just sat there and just on his table and just kept tapping the pencil over and over. It's like, what happened? He goes, well, he generated a lot of pennies and became rich, but he went crazy doing it. And it's like, so the exploit, what I'm getting at is the exploits, you don't allow them. So, but when it comes to like, all right, the simple version of this is the old question is when you meet God, one of the first questions is why did you let bad things happen to good people? And the answer is, well, because if I didn't, everyone would be good. That's all anyone would do is good things. Because if you're a good person and people figured it out, is like, wow, all I have to do is be good and my life will be great. No one's gonna ever do anything but good things. So you create this randomness. It's like that throws a little doubt in your head. Gives you the choice. The whole. It's like, should I be good or bad? Well, if I'm good and bad things happen to me, and it's like, well, then why should I be good? Well, then it's up to you. But also I also believe in NPCs, non-player characters. And that is, if you see someone, a nun all of a sudden gets run over by a bus, after, whatever reason. It could be that she was never there in the first place. She was there just for the storyline. And I know it gets kind of into the weird, type of stuff.
soulless vessels, you mean? Or-
Yeah, I mean, we do this now in
I
every.
meet a lot of people that seem like they're vapid,
There you go.
soulless people.
Yeah,
Honestly,
people.
I've heard that, but how could that even be?
It's because we do it. We're doing this. We've been doing this for the last 15 years, and all the simulations we do. They're people that you put in, kind of like not necessarily filler people, but people that progress certain storylines. So they're there to make sure you go down this certain path, or
So
make.
it's
And
predetermined.
then what happens to that person? They go to a different plot line, or they go and they get turned off.
No, they don't have to get turned off at all. They just live their lifespan. And
Really?
and then nobody knows any different. They're the person you meet in whatever, the laundromat. It's like, yes, I can
That
help.
says that strange thing to you that makes you look into this other thing.
Exactly. They don't have to disappear. They just move on and do whatever they do. And maybe it's not just for you. Maybe they're turning. It's hard to say, but I do believe in NPCs because
Really?
it's
You truly believe that?
in NPCs. I do. I really
Wow.
do because we
What besides the thought and the logic of it, what like evidence that kind of fully made you believe that exists?
nothing.
Or
Nothing.
people that you talk to or anything, or experiences, or like what? Or
People, well, I have met a lot of people in my life. I will say that when I was traveling across the country and going to all these different towns and meeting people, there were people that I met. It's not like I said that they were, I would say that they were vapid or empty, but I felt like they had roles that were predetermined. Like they were always, this was going to be their path, and it was always going to be their path. And it just ran into I can't even give you a percentage of how many people are out there that are like that, and I don't.
destination, half, 20%, 15.
I don't know. Because you don't. I
I
don't.
think it'd be between 20 and 40%. Just throwing a number out there.
It's possible.
At least that.
I mean, I suppose I could look up on the major game servers and see. I don't know if anyone's ever asked that question. It's like what percentage, because you can only have a certain population per server. In what we do. So if you have a certain population per server, how many characters are there support staff basically. Think of it no different than the Truman Show. The people that are walking around that could only do a certain number of things. They were very limited in what they could do.
They lack they lack the juice, the power.
Yeah.
I notice a lot of people pay attention to me. A lot of people are affected by my status or what I did the night before, the day before, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And it's just bizarre sometimes. And it's just like, why do these people seem to need to gravitate around my state of being right now? And,
Good, interesting.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, I was reading recently about different theories regarding blood types. I'm Rh negative. I'm A negative. I did my genetic test and I'm part Jewish. And it makes me, I see in the community, there's people that think there's some Jewish agenda or threat. No,
Yeah.
and that's like Eric Dubé. Why is he so against Judaism? They are good people.
There's
And don't have any malintent. And they are powerful people because when I was in high school, before I knew I was part Jewish,
yeah.
my one friend, he would get resentful or envious or something, and before I knew it, what blood I had, he would be like Jew boy and this stuff in a critical kind of just bad way, and I was like, that doesn't even make sense. So it's like certain people have, and he was always competing with me. I was like, why does he care so much? What is he sensing about his own insecurities and stuff from me that makes him feel like I'm this big being that has this big force, and they just sense something, and it's weird.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Every group has their, every demographic has their own traits and abilities, and unfortunately, and I don't know why it happened this way. And I don't want to misquote it. I don't want to get anyone on my bad side when I say this. But Jewish people seem to have inherited some sort of annoyance factor. Where
I've
Yeah,
noticed
it's
that
like,
too.
what in the
But it's
world?
also people sometimes, I don't know. I think you probably, I don't know. But anyways, it's negative. It said and it originated with a certain group, mainly the Basques, and different groups of Jewish people, and some in Ethiopia. They seem to have a higher percentage. And some truth seekers, they're trying to label them as hybrids or, part reptilian, which is fake in my mind anyways. I think they're using this, like they seem to use for every generation, as a way to get people fearing or kind of angry at the Jewish community. And it's a complete and utter lie.
I hear you.
It's not it's not because something you can't even prove. How could they even prove that they're
I know. I mean, really, I do circle it back to that trait though, because we all seen movies and television shows, and if you grew up in any sort of diverse neighborhood, I mean, everybody's got discriminatory beliefs against some other group, whether it be Hispanics or Italians. I mean, there's slang names for just about everyone you want, right? But again, the Jewish people seem to get the short end of the stick on that, because they seem to get, I'm not kidding when I say the annoyance trait, where if for whatever reason all those other groups is like, it's like everyone's got their own favorites of who they'd like to go into a gang fight with, but everyone else like, oh yeah, and those guys, the Jewish people, everyone.
Well, I've only got a small percentage, but from my experience from living life before I even knew what constituents I had in my genetics, I believe genetics determines a lot about how people sense you in non-conscious ways. But what I believe that it is they're given certain gifts, but because of those gifts, they have responsibility. So if they think they can use them in any other way than to serve God or to be selfless, they are always held accountable. Because my life, everything I do, I'm always the person held accountable. And it's like, how come these other people can get away with it? I'm always the one held accountable, and people seem to be affected by my state, which to me means I'm more of a force, not that they sense and stuff. So I think that's what it is. They're held accountable because of the gifts that they're given. So if they use it for good, people will be looking at them in a very good light. If they use it selfishly, then they're going to have to do the consequences for that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree, and I feel bad because there are other groups that are way more violent. I mean, look at the I'm not trying to make enemies here. Look at the Irish, the
Kristen's Irish.
Well, no. The mascot for Notre Dame is the Fighting Irish,
Oh,
right?
sure.
Hey, the Irish. Look, I've known quite a few Irish people. They seem to enjoy fighting and enjoy drinking, which is conducive to fighting, and so it works out really, really well. But
Yeah.
that happens all the time, and that seems way more destructive than other groups. But
Yeah,
nobody
yeah.
picks on them. It's not. I mean, it's the mascot for Notre Dame, and nobody's
Yeah.
questioning it.
Yeah.
Nobody's questioning it.
Self-awareness, that's what that is.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, they own it. That's the difference. It's like, oh yeah, Irish fight, proud of it. What, you want to do something about it? Let's fight. It's like, really? So yeah, I don't. Let me back up for a second. I do believe that the whole thing, as far as how the theory that I'm putting out there, it really brings. It takes down those barriers. At least I hope it would take down those barriers, because you're all in the same boat. So would you have the same prejudices as before? So when Eric comes out, and again, he's that
Yeah,
video
what
is.
is with that? What is with his Hitler video?
I
Like, I
don't.
saw that.
I
Well,
don't.
I don't. He has a video that I also support, which is, I mean, besides the flat Earth stuff, but he has a video that says that the nuclear bomb is fake. I
Yeah.
support that because they haven't done it since. But then he came out, just they haven't done it since, and I think it's because they can't fake it personally. Plus, if you're, breaking apart an atom, then that's all energy release. It's not smoke and stuff, which
Yeah.
is what mushroom clouds appear like. But then he releases the Hitler video, and it's like, what is he? He's weird. He's just
Well, I don't know why he took that hard left turn when he did that, because
strange.
he had.
It's so negative. And me and Kristen, we focus like our discussions when we get together after work and talk. We read the Bible and talk about spiritual things to get a better life. We were reading or watching more of his videos, and then we saw that, and we just stopped reading the Bible, and we started just feeling dark. We just felt bad
Yeah.
about life. So we were like, you know what? We're done with YouTube for a month.
Got
It's
it. Yeah.
yeah.
I publicly said, look, he could solve a lot of his problems if he just took it down. I'll say with you guys on air, but there was a entertainment company that told me privately that said, look, Eric will never get to whatever next level this thing goes to because of his views against Jewish people. Because it's like and they weren't saying it tongue in cheek. They were saying, look, do you know how many Jewish people are in the entertainment industry? As far as the producers at the high levels, because you can't make a video like that. You can't
Yeah.
you can't put Adolf Hitler as your thumbnail
Yeah,
and say,
I believe truth is a point of view. The only thing that would explain him self-sacrificing like that is for a different spiritual um,
yeah,
God
yeah,
or power that he's praying to, and so it's different groups. That's all it is. People,
yep,
based on your genetics, you feel differently. You sense other people as a threat. You pray to a different type of spiritual superpower. So
yep,
it's not truth. It's just a different team or game. And
yep.
if you don't transcend this material illusion, then you'll always be locked into those fear, threatened, competitive, comparing mindsets. And it is unfortunate because he has a lot of good truth.
He does. I tried to break it down for him, and I said in a couple things I did, look, if get to the point, get from point A to point B first, unify the world,
Yes.
Right.
and if you still feel that way, it's like, fine, the world's unified, kumbaya, that whole thing. If you get that point and you still, it's like, all right, let's go after the Jewish people. If you still feel that way, well, one, I feel bad for you, but two, I don't think you're going to. If you can actually
That's a good point.
get to that stage, I don't think you're still gonna still feel that way. And other people have said it about different groups. It's like, look, let go of your old prejudices at least for a little while, because this thing is way bigger than
Yeah,
all of
it
that.
doesn't mean you need to lose your culture or who you are. It just means mutual respect.
Yeah. I'm not saying that that all the culture should all go away. I mean, because that's where we get some wonderful diversity.
Yeah.
It's like, what, the Irish want to keep fighting? Go ahead, keep fighting. That's fine. I mean, they still may enjoy it. That's the funny thing. It's one world.
Probably. There's right.
It's
Yeah.
one world. Give me a whiskey. I'm gonna go fight that guy over in the corner.
Yeah, so Mark, we
Yeah.
know that you are on a time schedule.
Yeah.
We do have a few important questions that we want to ask before we're through. I read that I think it said that you believe there might be some type of social chaos that could occur, and you had some advice maybe for if that were to happen, or
Yeah, sure.
okay.
No, that's a great question. Because yeah, I've been trying to come up with names for it,
Okay.
and since I'm not doing it in a lab, I'm just kind of making up stuff. Which is there seems to be because this conspiracy more than any other is so mind bending. You know, people I've gotten so many emails. People lose weeks of sleep and they don't even look at the world the same
I
again.
believe it, yeah.
Right.
There is a small percentage of the population, and I don't have a number yet. We just don't know because one, this thing hasn't even been revealed as a truth yet. That don't know really what to do with it. They get a lot of energy in their head and a lot of passion. They get revved up. The adrenaline's there, and it's like they finish absorbing all the material. It's like I want to change the world right now,
Yeah.
and for
Burn
whatever
themselves out or something.
yeah, they burn out and then they turn it into a darker path, and that is
Sure.
because
Really?
if you're open-minded to this concept, you're open-minded to just about anything, and then
Yes.
you realize how dark the world can really be, and they don't know what to do with it. So what I've been trying to tell people is just pace yourself and don't expect the world to change as soon as you're done with it because that's what everybody says. It's like wow, I got to tell everybody right now. I've run into too many people who have said I've gone to a family gathering right after I had that aha moment and I sat down at the dinner table.
And they laugh.
Yeah, it's like and they try and they're angry because they couldn't convince their relatives in an hour at a dinner table.
Sure.
I was going,
Makes
dude,
sense.
it took you 5 days, a week to figure that, to finally come to grips with it, and you're trying to convince them with an hour? I couldn't convince them in an hour. And I've been working on this pretty much nonstop. Um,
Okay.
I am a
So,
little concerned that, and I'm sure the authority is too, that when this truth is eventually rolled out, there is going to be, no question, a small percentage of the population that is not going to handle it very well at
okay.
all for various reasons. I'll give you the most obvious, and that would be, which I talked about in the clues, and that is if there is, although I didn't talk about the dark side of it, which is if there is a scorecard on your life. Let's say God actually, there is a naughty and nice list, and you're on it. You're being rated. Well, what if you were a person that did horrible, horrible things your entire life? At that point, what do you got to lose from doing even more horrible things? There isn't. There's some people's like, well, I'm screwed anyway. Might as well go rob a bank. Where's my assault rifle? There's a potential there for some people to just freaking lose it, or the people that are on the fence about it, or they just aren't sure. It's like, what are the rules? How does this thing work now? So they don't know, and so I've been kind of easing people into it, saying, look, don't let this. I know it kind of consumes people and people get obsessive about it, but don't get burned out right away. Really, everything in moderation, including this. Don't just take a break every once in a while and go outside and think. Don't just wrap yourself up so much and then figure out, okay, how do I, where am I going to get my, it's like, okay, I'm going to go straight from here to the hardware store, get some 5 gallon cans of gasoline and some road flares and head over to NASA and try to burn this thing down.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. You're gonna. This is more of an awareness thing to get more people have to know first, and so
Okay.
that's yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You gotta have a backup plan,
Okay, yeah.
and I do have backup plans, so it is easy for me to because I try to have all my bases covered, but I do want to move forward as I'm going forward with this thing. I'm only going to. I'm never gonna say, look, run for your lives. I'm never going to yell that from the rooftops.
Yeah, yeah, where would
Because
you
what
go?
what good's that going to do? Lots
Yeah.
of people do that. There's no shortage of people doing that. I am
Plus, you're a figurehead with authority, of
well,
knowledge, and you don't want impressionable people to feel imminence or anything.
yeah.
So
Don't
that's
yell
why I
fire in a crowded movie
yeah,
house.
that's why I said
Eh, I know younger people don't have no idea what that even means. It's like you could yell fire now and be like, what? What are you talking about?
yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna stay positive and keep going. And there was a saying that I try to do at the end of the shows that I do, which was the lots of people don't remember the Ten Commandments by heart. In fact, I don't think even I do. which is a shame.
Aw.
But I try to preach just really one rule, which is treat others better than you treat yourself. It's easy to remember, and it's a pay it forward type of thing. Do not just do the right thing, do it ahead of time, and put yourself, because that saying, put yourself in their shoes, and that's what I'm trying, again, all positive, all good things.
And Mark, back to talking about the center of the Earth, do you think that many governments have actually explored secretly? Do they know what is down there?
If they're allowed to, sure. But again, like the directives we don't know about, I think our exposure to the other cultures is very, very limited. Even if we asked for permission, so if we sent a naval fleet up to the North Pole, I would imagine they'd probably be met by an entourage that would say,
Right.
yeah, we'll talk to you a little bit here or there, but there's only so many questions we'll answer, because it's still your world. Because otherwise you would see a major, like Germany, you would see a major. I don't think they're ever going to make that mistake again, where one country is going to have so much. I mean, like in the United States, we have an Area 51, but you don't see, tons of futuristic stuff. We've got cities that are filing for bankruptcy, so don't think that we're immune to all this.
Mark, I don't know if you want to give your opinion, but do you view any other kind of popular truth seekers, for example, Alex Jones or David Icke? Do you have an opinion? Have you ever read their stuff? Or
Anybody
for listeners, if you suggest to take their information with a grain of salt or to disregard it as sensational, or
Well, all right, and I don't want to diminish, but heck, I might as well make a stand eventually. I wasn't a huge follower of specific guys before I was doing this, what I'm doing now. I mean, I was a follower of concepts, and I had heard of them, of course, but I hadn't heard, of all the people that interviewed me so far. I think George Norrie was the only guy I ever saw on television. Alex Jones, his people have been trying to figure out how to do a show on this, but they don't know how to do it.
oh, really?
Oh yeah, but,
Yeah, he just had a globe. That's the reason why I dismiss him now, because he not only doesn't discuss it, nor the obvious fraud of the moon landings.
yeah.
He calls callers that inquire about that crazy and,
Be,
lunatics.
be,
But
behind the scenes, there are a lot of guys like that secretly. Again, I don't want to compare it necessarily
okay.
to
And I
gay.
think with most people, you're gonna agree with some of the things they say and disagree with some.
Yeah, anyone with a certain subscriber base is going to be jumpy, and I've run into this with other people that I have interviewed with, which have been they don't know, because they're so afraid of people, because the reaction is, well, you're insane, you're crazy. They don't want, all of a sudden, they're afraid that their followers will leave in droves, and so they're really, really nervous about doing this. Now, as far as what you were mentioning about the moon landings, yes, there seems to be some unwritten rules there. I don't know if it's spoken in whispers.
yeah, Joe Rogan, he puts himself off as all real, and yet he's afraid of that, or he's switched
Well,
his.
Joe's different. Like for example, let's compare real quick. Like Alex Jones and George Norrie, they believe, and George told me during the interview with him, that he believes in the Apollo program, which was the message to me, which was, okay, don't bring it up on this show. It's like,
Don't
fine.
touch that, yeah.
Okay.
Don't touch that, which is fine. Joe Rogan was different though, which was he was, in my opinion, a straight up shooter when it came to the conspiracy stuff. But he was winning, and he was winning to the point, anyway, he had enough celebrity status that
Yeah.
it bothered him. And so somebody went to him, and the old argument is, you show him the carrot and the stick at the same time, and you say, okay, here's a briefcase of money and a briefcase with a gun in it. You choose which one we open.
I'm not gonna die.
Well, that's just it. I mean, in his case, he had something to lose, obviously, and so yes, coincidentally, he gets a Sci-Fi Channel series. And now, granted, it only ran for a year, but the very first episode, he recanted everything that he ever said about the Apollo program. Didn't say.
I think I'd just go off the air. I'd be like, give me a couple million, and I'm going off the air.
Well,
because
you can't, because no, there's conditions. You're not allowed to just do that, because
Oh yeah, then
so-
they'd be like, what happened?
yeah, it's like you have to see, you have to go. It's all right. You're making a public statement saying
That
the
would
moon landings
suck.
happen.
That
Now, he
would not-
didn't say why he now believed in the moon missions. He just said that
Yeah.
he believed in the moon. In fact, you can't get an answer out of him now anyway, which is why he'll never invite me on his show, because
Probably says that he's done talking about it or something. Doesn't.
well, he is and he isn't. I think secretly he knows because he's already said that some of his friends know and believe it. But he's brought it up on I think 4 different shows already. 4 different shows where he said, "I'm not going to talk about. I'm not going to do a show on flat Earth." So why are you bringing it up, man? Why do you keep bringing it up? And it's like you can ignore those tweets, and he's thinking, maybe he thinks he can shut people up just by answering, making that statement. But all he's doing is hurting himself. And I feel bad. He's a cautionary tale, and I don't hate him personally in any way, shape, or form. Look, there's lots of people that would have been in that same boat. Now I'm not. But that's easier for me to say because I never got married and never had kids. So they say, what if they...
understandable, but it just makes... If you can't trust it, then what future do you have with that person? Because...
Yeah, I know.
I honestly think that. Because...
Oh, no, I'm not saying...
He was such a force to say, listen, I'm going to pound my chest because he likes the gorilla themes and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, this guy is real. If I saw him on the street, I would want him in my corner.
Yeah.
But then he changed his story and his stance on that. So anything from the future now, I don't even listen to his show anymore.
I know, neither do I. I get, but I feel I don't. I try to tell. That's why I say it's a cautionary tale. I say don't be too hard on Joe. Again, not defending him, because one day if that may happen to you. And you can say it all. It's like, well, I'd never take the government's money. I'd never take their threats. It's like, yeah, it's easy.
I would. Yeah. I'm just being honest.
You take, yeah. Well, I joke with David Weiss, because he's got a wife, and it's like I told him, I go, dude, if it ever comes to that, I go, take the money and say whatever they want to say and do whatever. Me, I can't, just because it's just how I am.
People are wise. People can sense truth. So if you're not doing truth anymore,
Yeah.
they're gonna sense that. You're just gonna have the flicker in your eye, or the energy to you, the zest is gonna disappear, and they're gonna go on to someone else where they sense that life.
Yeah,
from.
yeah, they will. Yeah,
Truth is life.
people can smell that out. Now, of course, I get accused of stuff every once in a while. I was like, look, until I actually do something that's so damning it cannot be ignored, then it's all just hearsay. But I'm on record. Go ahead.
So just as far as for David Icke, what is your view on him? Because he had in 2006 when I first started looking into the truth seeking stuff, he had so much information that made logical sense, and the way he presented it, it really clicked. Not so much reptilians, but what's your view on him?
I'll take the selfish answer on this one, and this will be the first time I think I've ever said that, and that is, unless I don't care who you are, and what theories you had up until now, if you're not actively trying to decipher this riddle, the one that we're throwing out there right now, I don't care what you do. I don't. Okay. Now, that's not to say that the Hollow Earth, because I still consider the Hollow Earth part of the model. So I'm not slamming you guys in any way, shape, or form. But as far as there's a reason why Richard Hoagland, for example, didn't debate us the other month, and that was his theories absolutely cannot survive inside the model that we're putting forward. So whatever, I don't care. It's like, because there's
David Icke. A couple of years ago, he had the addition to his realizations that the moon was actually a spaceship that was brought into our atmosphere, not our atmosphere, but surround, gravitating around us and stuff. So that's really.
And he's done a couple. He did a couple shows where he was trying to address it because he saw the trend. He saw where it was going. Okay. So, which is great. I just wish he would have continued down that road. Of all people, he should. And I know it's partly because he doesn't.
Yeah. Because he has a lot of spiritual insights for the dark aspects and the stuff that people can.
Sure, no question. Work it into the model. I'm not saying that he people shouldn't listen to him. I'm just saying that whatever you're working on right now, you're gonna. Which is why I've done so many interviews up until this.
This is it. Yeah, this is the
This is the big one. This is the one you've all been waiting for. And of course no one saw it coming because it's like, okay, I'm ready for the next big lie. I'm ready, really, because you've been living in it.
So Mark, I guess what's next for you? Because me and Kristen, we want to find out what's at the center of the Earth.
Yeah.
From then, we don't know what's next. But for you, what is your next step? Since you feel like you've found, the dome and the flat Earth and all that.
My next step is getting together enough testimony experts which I've already done 15 of them so far, and I've been moving my way up the chain.
Of government officials, pilots, or
All. So on my YouTube channel, there's a playlist called Testimony Shows, and I've gotten all branches of the armed forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, engineers, anyone that's even remotely related to this thing, surveyor, air traffic controller, structural engineer, industrial engineer. There's also all these people are coming forward, and they're all saying the same thing, which is, in fact, nobody's refuting, nobody's contradicting anybody else, but they're all saying, yeah, from everything that we can see, there's three things that we can basically confirm, which is one, there seems to be no curvature that we can find. Two, whatever we're on definitely is not spinning, and three, the maps are wrong. And they're all, all give, with their different instruments, they're all giving their own testimonies. And so I'm working up my way up, and I've gotten a great base so far. I'm just
to Congress or something, or
no. You don't have to. Are you kidding? Politicians are bought and sold. This will make its way through social media. You don't need to have a Senate subcommittee on something like this. What I'm really hoping though is somebody that's ex-NASA or ex-Space Command. Someone along the lines that can say yes. I mean, all I need is one guy that says, look, the telemetry was absolutely staged. Look, this was fake. Look, this was fake. Anybody, they don't have to be an ex-astronaut. I don't care about that. But
how easy do you think that's going to be, though, for somebody to?
Well, I don't think. Normally, I'd say it'd be almost impossible, but all the people that I've interviewed so far, they all solicited me. I didn't have to call a single one. They all tracked me down, and they all built off each other. It's like the Navy guy, the second Navy guy built off the first Navy guy. The Air Force guy built off the second Navy guy. The industrial engineer, they all picked up little things from each other, and they all called and they said, look, I'm either willing to go on record or I'll give you a statement, to whatever you need, and we'll do it. And it's been great. I mean, I did one just last week. Oh crap, which was that guy? Oh, the surveyor was last week. But before that, it was a pilot from the United States Army. Usually they're older guys, but it's not that hard. How I've gotten so far has not taken as much effort as I thought it would be. So maybe it is part of the plan, and who knows? Maybe I will get a call from somebody from a space agency that just
That'd be fabulous.
Where they say, you know what, on record or on off record, I do it. Either way, I'll take them. So that's where I'm moving forward. I'm just going to keep building with more experts. If other people want to do experiments, hey, great, they can do the experiments. And the engineers and those guys, they're doing some wonderful, wonderful work. There's a whole bunch of people on YouTube that are doing great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, we know that you are on a schedule.
I got to run.
Yeah, we don't want to keep you too long. I do have a lot more questions, like the moon and how Quo 777 kind of took videos, and it seems like there's some waves going on with lunar.
Yeah, lunar waves.
I would like, but we know you're on a time crunch, so maybe sometime in the future down the road, when you are free sometime, we would like to have another discussion.
Yeah, be happy to do it. Just
because who knows what other information is going to be released or what realizations people are going to have.
Again, Obama talked about it again last week, where he came on, and I'll send you the clip as soon as we're done here. I'll send you the clip, but it's amazing. He didn't have to bring it up, and he brought it up to a bunch of reporters, and it was fascinating. Every week I think I've seen it all, and I haven't.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you guys very much for having me.
Yeah, good luck with your project.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, you have a good rest of the day.
All right, you too.
All right.
Thanks.
See you.
All right, don't hang up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so you guys can edit however you want, but I'll just cut everything from here off.